Jones and others.
The ayes have it, so ordered without objection. The bill
The establishment of schools of nursing education and the continuance of such schools.
The bill on its second reading is amended. Those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it.
Your taxes, your children's education, the roads you drive on, are determined here. This is the heart of state government. The heartbeat is words. For every one written, thousands are spoken. They are your words, your neighbor's words, for you selected the men who are your spokesmen. Few legislative bodies have so much authority as the one that sits here, the North Carolina General Assembly. This is the only state legislature that cannot be vetoed by a governor. In fact, little can be done by state officials and agencies, by county or municipal governments, without approval of the legislature.
Visitors will repair to the lobbies. The members will please take their seats. Stand while we are led in prayer by House Chaplain Alfonso Jordan.
Our Heavenly Father, we pray thy blessings upon the servants of the people as they meet
The
here
setting is
together.
modern, but the General Assembly runs on ancient tradition. Its members are enmeshed in a web of protocol, courtesies, and formal rules of order. To the layman, it's all perplexity.
Amen.
Put yourself in the shoes of a freshman representative, a legislator beginning his first term of office.
It was a complete new experience for me. I didn't know exactly the functions of the legislature, the formality that we followed, and it was quite new and quite different. It sort of reminded me of the first day that I went to school. All new and all different and all complex and confusing.
Is any discussion, any debate? If not, those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, so ordered. Without objection, the resolution be read a third time.
Take a seat in the visitors' gallery. Perhaps you'll expect to hear a great debate, high-flying oratory from today's John C. Calhoun's, Daniel Webster's, and Charles Brantley Aycock's. But more likely, you'll witness this.
House Bill number 194, introduced by Representative Darley, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Section 13 of Chapter 504 of the 1961 Session Laws of North Carolina so as to place the town of Dallas under most of the provisions of Article 3, Chapter 16 of the General Statute of North Carolina, the General Assembly of North Carolina do enact.
Any discussion, any debate? If
This
not,
is the way many bills are passed. The legislators don't even seem to pay attention. But this stage is only a formality. The real work already has been done.
to the ladies and gentlemen in the galleries, and particularly the school children, several local bills have been passed, and passed in a pretty rapid order. Each of these bills, when they were introduced, was sent to a particular committee, and that particular committee gave careful consideration to the bill. And then it was reported back to the House with a favorable report. And favorable report means that they thought the bill was good, that it was in order. And on the desk of each of the members here is a copy of the bill. And also on the desk of each of the members is a calendar showing the legislation which is to be taken up today. And each member had the opportunity to study each bill very carefully, to know exactly what is going on. And if any member had wanted to object to any of these bills, they had the right and the privilege to do so.
The formal daily sessions seldom last even 2 hours. The shirt-sleeve work of lawmaking is done by committees, 50 in the House, 35 in the Senate. When bills are introduced, the presiding officer refers them to the proper committee for study.
House Bill 6, introduced by Mr. Jones and others, a bill to be entitled an act to appropriate $25 million of the funds of the state of North Carolina for the public school buildings and facilities of the state as the need for same shall be determined by the State Board of Education.
Education.
Mr. Greenwood,
The lady from the north.
I am not an alumni of Women's College. In fact is, I don't believe...
Tempers are more likely to get hot in committee than on the chamber floor. When they do, a committee chairman finds himself sitting on a powder keg. This chairman explains what it's like.
It's not too pleasant, but on the other hand, it's not too bad, because the chairman always realizes that it's the issue that is at stake and not himself. For instance, I hold no grudge. I'm not mad at anyone.
Mr. Chairman, may I inquire, please, sir, about a matter of procedure?
You surely may.
You mean to say that, does the chair mean to say that this committee has powers to do anything except what you say it shall do? I just asked you that question.
The ruling has been, and the ruling is, that we shall dispose of these amendments before we take up any further amendments, sir.
In other words,
You may overrule me by a two-thirds majority.
There's no way to adjourn this meeting.
You may overrule me by a two-thirds majority at any time.
I say there's no way to adjourn.
You may overrule me at any time by a two-thirds majority. Will the gentleman take a seat, please?
Bill.
In most committee meetings, the mood is one of calm deliberation. Here, discussion of a bill concerning automobiles that pass stopped school buses.
Well, the reason is our children in getting on and off school buses are just sitting ducks because it would go around the school.
Few bills get by committee without suggested changes, known in legislative language as amendments. On controversial bills, a public hearing will likely be called before decision is made.
Violates the provisions of this section.
A favorable committee report normally assures passage for any minor bill. An unfavorable report usually assigns it to a kind of limbo known as unfavorable calendar, where it dies.
House Bill number 46, introduced by Representative Bonson. The bill to be entitled an act to amend GS 20-141 to authorize the State Highway Commission to designate...
Bills that are reported favorably go on the regular calendar. Amendments, other than those recommended by committees, can still be offered from the floor and frequently are. But no major bill is passed without some speech-making. It will come at this point.
17 states now have limits of 70 or above. There have been some who said we should go to 70. I think 65 may be fast enough at this time. One thing that has worried some people is thinking that speed is the only trouble with some of our accident rates.
We all know that excessive speed on the highways of this state contributes to accidents. Not only contributes to accidents, but in many cases causes accidents.
Question is to pass the bill on his third reading. The clerk will read.
General Assembly of North Carolina do enact.
Any discussion? If not, those in favor of passing the bill on third reading, let it be known saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. The bill has
This bill has now cleared its first hurdle. Before a bill can become law, it must receive the same treatment and scrutiny in the Senate as it had in the House. Neither chamber is superior to the other. Bills can originate in either one, but they must be passed in identical form by vote.
44 senators having voted in the affirmative and none in the negative, the bill has passed its third reading. Be sent to this House. The senator from Robertson is recognized.
Mr. President, I'd like to move that bill be sent by a special messenger to the House, please, sir.
Senator from Robertson moves that the bill be sent
It's
to
the old theory that two heads are better than one, or, more properly, the time-honored American tradition of checks and balances.
Special messenger.
House Bill number 118, introduced by Representative Williamson of Brunswick.
These decisions fall on the shoulders of 170 men and women, 50 in the Senate, 120 in the House of Representatives.
The many senators in favor of the passage of the bill on its second reading will, when their names are called, vote aye.
Seats in both Senate and House are apportioned on the basis of population. Every county has at least one representative. Most senators represent districts of more than one county.
The people of the mountains to come hold a session and visit west of the Blue Ridge. Whereas the land of Daniel Boone and Zebulon Vance, of Thomas Wolfe and Eliza Mitchell, of the Trail of Tears and the Nantahala, of Maggie Valley and Craggy Gardens, of sourwood honey and rainbow trout, of homespun folk song, the happy land west of the Blue Ridge, calls to members of this General Assembly as it does to all North Carolinians, saying, y'all come.
The big decisions may not be made in the legislative building at all, but in a Raleigh hotel, the lawmaker's home away from home. Members with favorite bills do their most effective work right here, lining up support. The General Assembly meets every other year. The members must spend 4 to 5 months in Raleigh while they dispose of the business before them. Upstairs in the hotel, opposing factions work out a compromise during the wee hours over cold coffee cups and spilling ashtrays. There, they can attack the problem in relaxed fashion. And in this setting, too, the lobbyist does some of his most important work. He is as much a part of the legislative scene as are the legislators. Professional lobbyists have taken part in far more sessions than the younger lawmakers. Some of them formerly were legislators who don't want to leave the legislative scene. Many groups have an interest in legislation. Most of them are trade associations. A lobbyist, however, can represent a single company. All paid lobbyists must register and report expenses. Nearly 70 were registered for the 1963 session, some of them representing more than one group.
There is a rather candid approach that I like and I find very helpful, where the lobbyist says to the member, my clients are interested in a particular bill, and we would like to express our views and like for you to ask any questions. And I've been out with lobbyists for dinner and stayed for 6 hours asking them, and we talk about nothing but the particular matters that the lobbyist is interested in, to cross-examine him, to get an opportunity to see the strengths and weaknesses of his client's positions. I think in general they're helpful to us because there's so many bills. We can't possibly garner all the information about all of them that we'd like to have.
An unfair lobbyist could come to you and say, well, now, if you don't support my bill, the one I have an interest in, then I'm going to do so-and-so to a bill that you have an interest in. I'm very thankful to say that I've never known that to happen to me personally in the legislature.
And I think all people have a right to be heard, and that's quite often their only means of doing it. Trade association, the educational groups, the allied church leagues, any group of people that you want to think of in North Carolina, the farm groups, they have a right to be heard. The textile manufacturers.
There are people trying to prevent the pollution of our rivers, to build our education, to provide employment opportunities for people who are being pushed off our farms. The lobby is the state pushing the legislature. And when people talk about pressure, pressure is what the legislature needs, not the single selfish pressure, but the pressure of a whole people on their government.
State officials and agency heads also lobby for their programs. The State Motor Vehicles Commissioner, for instance, is boosting stricter laws for highway safety. University President Bill Friday is another frequent visitor. These state officials make use of the same tactics as the hired professionals.
We have, for instance, now the Agriculture Department's so-called buttermilk room, where legislators are invited in the hotel to come and have sweet milk, buttermilk, orange juice, cookies, and to discuss with the Agriculture Department its problems, its needs. I think this is good.
Actually, the most serious lobbyists are not people out in the lobby. They sit in the seats of senators and representatives, and there they represent
a cause, a corporation, an interest.
The state governor himself has a legislative leg man. He is known as the governor's legislative counsel, and from his office in the legislative building, he guides the governor's programs through the labyrinth.
The major part of my work is really one of coordination and not so much influencing the vote. But the lack of veto power on the part of the governor does require that I stay pretty close to all legislation that he's interested in. And we just can't have any slip-ups because if a bill is not passed or gets an unfavorable report, then of course you're just through as far as that particular legislation is concerned.
Lindsay Warren Sr., retired after 40 years in both state and national legislative branches, an elder statesman of North Carolina.
Although North Carolina is the only state in the Union that does not have the veto power, I think it's proven very salutary and, in fact, has strengthened the government.
Actually, I feel that the diversity of North Carolina is perhaps as wide or wider than in any other state. And I think, therefore, the feeling from the people should be stronger in the laws enacted. And we accomplish this by the General Assembly having the ultimate say-so in the matter.
The work of the General Assembly begins when the governor delivers his biennial and budget messages at the start of every session.
We need to redistrict the Senate. It's just that simple. The Constitution requires it, so we need to get on with the job. We need to concern ourselves with our insurance laws. North Carolina is known as...
His remarks set the tone for the entire session. The major bills are based upon his lengthy and carefully considered outlines.
...to make to you.
Adoption of a budget is a major job every session. The details spill over into many volumes. The budget is prepared by the Joint Appropriations Committee. It's a monumental undertaking. North Carolina's state government carries a price tag of almost $1 billion a year, from road building programs to rehabilitation of criminals to expansion of state colleges and universities. The money bills are among the first introduced and among the last bills passed before adjournment. The committees that consider them are so important, every senator and representative serves either on the spending committee or the financing committee. The chairmanships of these groups carry the most prestige and the most headaches. The legislative machinery seldom bogs down in partisan politics. Members of the General Assembly are overwhelmingly Democrats, but Republican members can play important roles.
When we oppose a measure that's introduced by the administration, it's our role and duty, I think, to let the public know through the news media and through our speeches on the floor of the House and in committee why we oppose them. And we have another important role, too, which people sometimes overlook, and that is to introduce and sponsor legislation which we feel is to the best interest of the people of the state. That is legislation that hadn't been introduced by the administration or legislation that is contrary to its way of thinking.
The other purpose that the minority party serves, I think, is because we are rather small, we're a cohesive group pretty well. And quite often we have close votes because of the factionalism that exists in the Democratic Party. Find often that there's a close vote on major issues. And the minority party serves as a swing vote.
The legislators, by and large, are the people. They represent them, they go home, they move with them. Our legislators pour out of this town every Friday. They don't come back till Monday night, and the folks are around them all the time when they're at home.
The weekend exodus provides no let-up from the legislative pace. The moments the lawmaker has with his family or his personal business are precious. And if people don't come to him, he must seek them out. There are local matters to be discussed with municipal and county officials.
Roy, you mentioned a while ago your license tag.
Often it's his handling of local matters that determines whether a legislator is re-elected, no matter how he votes on statewide measures.
What do you think of that, Billy?
Well, we all holler that we like a government on a local level. We don't like it centralized in Raleigh or in Washington. And yet a great many of our counties come to the General Assembly with everything from pay raises to for the Register of Deeds to transferring one little item from one department to another.
Few people work under greater outside pressures than the lawmaker. He has so many people to please. Garden clubs, theater groups, history buffs, every group and community with a project wants his time, his ear, and his vote. Where does he draw the line?
I think most of us operate under pressure. We're used to operating under pressure. And the only thing that ever bother me is when I'm not sure whether I'm right or not.
It's a combination of factors. The approach to government that you like to see, the bent toward conservatism or liberalism in particular fields that you would like to see followed in the state, the things that you genuinely feel will promote the community that you live in. And when you couple with that the exhilaration of being a part of the government, it seems to me that you have just about all of the motivating factors. Which is more important? I don't know. Some days I ask myself, Riley, why in the world did I ever do it?
The five-domed legislative building is the first design for use exclusively by the legislative branch of a state government. It houses one of the nation's oldest legislative bodies. The first General Assembly met under an oak tree on a Pasquotank County creek bank in 1665, a century before the First Continental Congress convened. One of its first acts was a resolution declaring that members should wear shoes, if not stockings, during the session. Contrast that first colonial assembly with those of today, dealing with budgets of nearly $2 billion. Until 1963, the lawmakers assembled in the state capitol, built in 1840. It still houses the offices of the governor, secretary of state, and state treasurer. Rich in the traditions of the state, the capitol remains a cherished landmark. in its cramped and crowded chambers, the business of the legislature became unworkable.
We told the architect that we wanted a building which would not be out of character for a classic building, but we wanted to be modern and modernly functional. And we think the architect has achieved that in this design. This is a monumental building, and we, of course, were building a building to last 100 years. I have yet to hear any citizen criticize this building who has been inside the building and realizes how it was programmed, how it was designed, how functional it is, and particularly recognize the fact that it is not only extremely functional, but it is beautiful in every sense.
State legislatures are often criticized. Yet, as they have been since this land was settled, they are the wellspring of state law and opinion. They give the voter close and vital access to the lawmaking process. How does North Carolina's legislature compare with those in other states?
Of course, we look to the governor for leadership. And most of the governors give that leadership. But after all, it could only be put into effect by the legislature.
A lot of individual irresponsibility is sometimes encountered, but as a body, I think it has shown remarkable competence and remarkable responsibility.
Well, North Carolina is a very distinct state. Years ago, someone said that it was the vale of humility between two mountains of conceit. But those two mountains are different, as North Carolina is. Once I went up into Virginia and was almost chased out by a governor named Tuck, almost as if he had a cudgel like Friar Tuck, because I said that Virginia was the cradle and the grave of democracy. And I went to South Carolina, where my wife's people come from. And when we came back, I said, I find there are only two kinds of South Carolinians. One kind never has worn shoes, and the other kind makes you feel that you never have worn shoes. North Carolina is a state between. A simple people, stout and strong, and I think our legislature is the legislature of such a state.